Hey everyone, it's Sagar, and today you are going to witness the ultimate camera showdown, iPhone 16e versus the iPhone 16. Now one is Apple's so-called budget-friendly underdog, and the other one is actually its bigger brother. They both have a lot of the same specs, but they are still two very different smartphones. Stick around for an epic battle. Right now, you can get the 16e at about 49 or 50,000 including bank and card offers, and with similar offers, the regular 16 is priced at around 67 to 69,000. So the price difference between these two is about 16 to 18,000 rupees. And many of you want to know if you should spend the extra amount on the iPhone 16 or is the single camera on the iPhone 16e good enough for your needs? You will find the answer to this question and a lot more if you stick around till the end of the video. iPhone 16e rocks a single 48 megapixel camera, while the 16 gets a dual camera setup with a 48 megapixel main and a 12 megapixel sensor behind the ultra wide angle lens. It is not just always about the specs, so let us check out how they perform in real world. Here are daytime shots on the main cameras of both these phones. These are coming out of 48 megapixel cameras, but they are 24 megapixel bind shots and they look very similar. We will look at the full 48 megapixel resolution shots a bit later on in the video. Now although both are 48 megapixel sensors, one on the iPhone 16 is physically much bigger than the one on the iPhone 16e. Given this information, I was hoping to see a lot more information and details in the shots on the iPhone 16. But even when I crop in 300% on both these shots, we barely see any difference between them. The white balance, color temperature and the overall look is also really similar in both the shots, which is a huge point in favor of the iPhone 16e. It is really amazing how Apple is able to extract the same amount of details from a much smaller image sensor on the iPhone 16e as the iPhone 16. It feels like they are really about to take the photography game to the next level. Now this is the first picture where we see a difference in the images from both the phones. 16e's image has a lot more contrast and it even captured a slight green tint in the entire shot. iPhone 16's image on the other hand looks really good and balanced. In majority of the even lit conditions, most of the shots on both these phones look exactly similar. Even the colors seem to look the same. But it is when you look closer, you notice that all of the colors in the iPhone 16e's images look slightly more warmer. The difference is very subtle, but it is there in almost all of the shots. This is not very easily noticeable for the shots which are taken in indoor lighting conditions. But for the outdoor shots, it is hard to notice this if you are looking at both these images side by side. I am not saying that one looks better than the other, just that there is a difference in the way that they are capturing and processing these colors. If you don't like the colors on either of them, both get photographic styles and let you choose the colors, hues, tones, etc. according to your preference. These photographic styles allow you a much granular control on the iPhone 16, whereas the 16e gets the same photographic style options which we got on older iPhones. Now, I personally like the colors from both the phones, but I am slightly leaning towards the iPhone 16 because I like to have natural looking colors in my images. If you like one better than the other, then you can see these images and decide which one suits your style the best. Dynamic range is another thing which is very good from both the phones. I mean, none of them are perfect or even the best when it comes to capturing these kind of shots. But in these images, both phones are not letting the brighter parts of the scene blow out or the darker parts of the scene being completely crushed. Both are balancing the entire shot really well. Now this is a comparison video, so we have to put these images through a magnifying glass. And when we do, we see the iPhone 16e showing slightly more details in the shadows than the iPhone 16. At first I was a bit surprised, but when I checked the EXIF data, these images which are showing more details in the shadows are in fact on the iPhone 16e. Now there is a bit of more noise in these parts, but I would happily take some noise in my shot over much darker looking shadows. Now we see this in most of the shots which demand higher dynamic range. While both are great at handling the brighter parts and not letting them blow out, it's the iPhone 16e which is capturing more details and information in the shadows in almost all of the HDR situations. Given a single camera and the price point and the fact that it is priced below the iPhone 16 in Apple's iPhone lineup, I am extremely impressed with the camera on the iPhone 16e so far. Close-up shots is where we start noticing a bigger difference between these two. Thanks to a much larger image sensor, iPhone 16 seems to be way ahead in this category. Both the phones have a good minimum focusing distance and they make sure to set the focus accurately on the main subject. But the background looks much better in the close-up shots on the iPhone 16. The things which are behind the subject are blurred out a lot more in its images. This makes its images look much better and slightly more professional. A good amount of separation between the foreground, subject and the background makes any image look much more pleasing. So if you like to take a lot of close-up shots, you should definitely go with the iPhone 16. It also lets you get very close to your subject for taking macro shots like these. And it is using the autofocus capabilities of the ultra wide angle lens for these kind of shots. iPhone 16e doesn't have an ultra wide angle lens, so it doesn't get this feature. You can get as close as 2.5 cm of a subject and the 16 can still set the focus on it, allowing you to take macro shots like these. If you think you are someone who likes to get up and close to your subject, then the iPhone 16 is the best option for you. It takes amazing close-up shots with a very creamy bokeh in the background, and you also get the ability of taking macro shots. I hope you have enjoyed this video so far, and if you did, I will really appreciate if you could hit the like button and maybe share it with someone who is looking to get either of these phones to help them with their decision. And please also subscribe to the channel for a lot more amazing videos. Alright, now let's get back to the video and check out the wide shots. The iPhone 16's ultra-wide-angle lens is also very good for taking epic landscape shots, while the iPhone 16e is stuck with just the main camera. This ultra-wide-angle lens on the iPhone 16 lets you get more of the scene in your shot, which is perfect for landscapes or group shots. This lens also lets you show the scale of things or let you get the entire scene in the shot if you don't have enough space to move back. So there are a lot of scenarios where the ultra-wide-angle lens comes in very handy. The 16e misses out on all of those shots. When it comes to zoomed in shots, both are again on equal grounds. They don't have any telephoto lens and rely on digital zoom. Since both have a 48 megapixel sensor, 2x digitally zoomed in shots on both are termed as 12 megapixel lossless zoomed shots. I don't think that there is any easy way for us to determine if these are actually lossless zoomed in shots, but as far as I can tell, they look really good and detailed from both the phones. Although the 16 has a bigger sensor, we don't notice any extra details in its images, at least not without cropping in on these images even further. So other than the levels of details in these images, other things remains the same. Like the 16e's images are slightly warmer and are showing slightly better dynamic range, especially in the shadowed region. So basically we see the same similarities and differences in the 2x digitally zoomed in shots like we saw in the normal 1x shots from both of them. If you saw my camera comparison video between the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro which I put out a few days back, there wasn't a huge difference between the images from the main sensors of both those phones. This is despite the fact that the 16 Pro gets an even bigger image sensor behind the main camera than the regular iPhone 16. We see similar things in this comparison. Although the 16 gets a bigger sensor than the 16e, we can't see a huge difference between their shots even when we look at the 48 megapixel shots from both of them. Now when we look at the size of these images, there is 7 to 8 times more data being captured by the iPhone 16 in these same high resolution shots compared to the iPhone 16e. But that difference is not visible unless you zoom in or crop in 800 to 900% on these images. You will see things in 16's images being slightly more detailed when we zoom in this far, while things in the images from the iPhone 16e start looking messed up and has a watercolor painting-like effect. Now more information in any shot is good if you are going to zoom in on a certain part of that image later on, like when taking landscape shots. But in most other conditions, I don't think that we zoom in so far after clicking the shot. So while zooming in 300 to 400%, I feel like images from both the phones look pretty much the same. So unless you need Hawkeye type zoom ability after you have clicked the image, most people are going to be fine with either of these phones. And for some reason, if you do need to zoom in so far for a lot of your shots, I suggest going with the iPhone 16 Pro as that one has the extra telephoto lens for your needs. That brings us to the portrait shots. I love to take portrait shots, so it is very important for me that a phone does well in this department. Historically, iPhones with single camera have been slightly weak in this area. iPhone XR, SE2, SE3 all were not the best at detecting the edges since this part is taken care via software on these phones. Whereas on the phones with two cameras, Apple uses the information from both the cameras to calculate depth information. Because of all this information, I was a bit skeptical about the iPhone 16's portrait performance. But when I started taking portraits with it, all my doubts faded away. It seems to be doing almost as good as the iPhone 16 at detecting the edges, and it is just as quick. Colors, skin tones and everything else also seems good, with a lot of details being preserved in the face of the subject. That being said, it still missed out on detecting some parts of the scene accurately. Like in this shot, it missed to blur out this small part between my body and my arm. And it also blurred out this chair next to me, which was in the same plane of focus as me, so ideally it should not have blurred it out. You won't see these mistakes in the portraits on the iPhone 16. It managed both the parts really well in its shot. Thanks to the two cameras on its back, iPhone 16 also understands the depth in the shot slightly better. In this shot, it kept Monica's face in focus and blurred the background, but it also understood that her hand and the phone is slightly closer to the camera, so it considered it as a foreground and blurred it as well. The iPhone 16e doesn't understand this, and while it kept her in focus, it only blurred out the background. Both of these phones can take zoomed in portraits. 16e can take up to 2x zoomed in portraits, whereas the iPhone 16 gets the option of going up to 3x, but I will stick to 2x ones for this comparison. Even though this is digital zoom, both of them keep the faces looking really sharp. We again see that depth awareness from the iPhone 16 where my hands and the background is blurred out. If you take some time and frame your portrait shots properly, I think ones from the iPhone 16e also look very good. But if money is not an issue and I have to choose one for taking portrait shots, I will definitely go with the iPhone 16. Don't get me wrong, iPhone 16e's portrait shots also look good on their own, but when we compare the two, the 16 comes out on top. Now while taking this decision, I also considered the fact that the iPhone 16 can take portraits of anything, but the 16e needs to detect a face in order to take the portrait shot. It just can't take portrait shots of objects. And as someone who takes a lot of portrait shots of objects as well, going with the iPhone 16e would limit my options a lot. The 16 just lets me take amazing portrait shots of objects like this. So if you're someone who does a lot of portrait photography, then I would steer you towards the iPhone 16. Now it's time to turn down the lights and see how these cameras perform in artificial and lower lighting conditions. I've mentioned it multiple times by this point that 16e gets a smaller 48 megapixel sensor than the one on the iPhone 16. Now this starts becoming more apparent as we start shooting in lower light. When I was taking these images, I thought both were doing a similar job. But when I compared these shots side by side on a bigger screen, 16's images are slightly brighter in these conditions. This is not necessarily a bad thing, it is just an observation when comparing these images. Other than that, the shots look very similar from both of them where there is plenty of ambient light around. As we get to even lower light, 16e's images start appearing darker even on the phone's display as compared to the ones from the iPhone 16. We didn't see a big or a noticeable difference between their daytime shots, but these are the type of conditions where a large image sensor combined with a wider aperture goes a long way. We can even see much more details in the darker parts of the shot from the iPhone 16. There is also a noticeable amount of noise in the 16e's low light shots, whereas the iPhone 16 is doing a good job of keeping its image noise free in similar lighting conditions. Now these low light shots from the iPhone 16 are not at all bad, but ones from the iPhone 16 are just better. 16e's images still look good as long as you don't zoom in on them too much, and if we do zoom in on these images, we see the iPhone 16 clearly showing much more details in the overall shot. So after having checked out so many images in different lighting conditions, low light seems to be the Achilles heel of this iPhone 16e where it doesn't perform as well as we expected it to. That being said, it still does better than something like the iPhone 14 or any of the iPhones from before that. If you're looking to upgrade from the iPhone 14 to the iPhone 16e or even from the iPhone 11 to the iPhone 16e, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on all of the notifications, as very detailed camera comparison videos of both these phones are coming up on the channel very soon. I think this iPhone 16e is Apple's first phone with a single camera to feature night mode. I let both the phones decide when they wanted to fire the night mode depending on the lighting conditions. 16e took this shot in night mode with about 2-second exposure time, whereas the iPhone 16 didn't even switch to the night mode for this shot. Despite of that, we see similar looking shots from both of them. Actually, even without the night mode, 16 seems to have captured more information in the much darker parts of the scene. When the iPhone 16 actually fires the night mode, its images are much more brighter and have a lot more information overall, and it also consistently takes much less exposure time than the iPhone 16e while taking these shots in very low light. This theme continues for all of the night mode shots. Look at this part of these shots. It looks almost completely dark in the night mode shot from the iPhone 16e, whereas the iPhone 16's main sensor managed to capture so much more light in that part. It is good that the 16 captures a lot more information in the night mode shot, but this mode on any of the phone needs you to hold the phone steady for anywhere between 2 to 5 seconds depending on the available light. Everyone doesn't have the patience to stand steady for 2, 3 or 5 seconds while the night mode shot is being captured. So I always prefer a phone which takes good low light shots even without the night mode. In this case, iPhone 16 is the better phone both with and without the night mode. That brings us to the front facing cameras. These cameras are exactly same on both the phones, so the selfies should have exactly similar amount of details. Any difference that we might see in their white balance or the color temperature is purely based on their image processing. The only difference I see is a slight extra warmth in the 16e's shot, just like we saw in all of its daytime shots compared to the ones from the iPhone 16. Other than that, these shots from both the phones look exactly same. The level of details and the dynamic range is the same in these selfies from both of them. So overall, I'm really happy with the selfies from the iPhone 16e as they are on the same level as those from the iPhone 16. iPhones are not the best phones out there for taking selfies, and I feel like the 12 megapixel selfie camera on both these phones should have been upgraded to at least 24 megapixel ones, so we could have had extra details in these selfies. But I am still happy that just like with the daytime shots, we are getting pretty much similar performance in these shots from both the phones. So you can be paying much less and go for the iPhone 16e and still expect to get the same results on the front facing camera as the iPhone 16. This is true for both normal and portrait selfies. The edge detection from both of them is same. I think they both can use a bit of refinements so they can do an even better job around the hair. But other than that, the level of details and dynamic range even in the portrait selfies is similar from both. If I remove the label, I am sure we won't be able to tell which is from which phone, or one of these won't be showing more details than the other. So front facing camera wise, both are on equal grounds. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16e. You can see how both these phones are handling the overall colors of the scene, exposure and stabilization when I'm walking around with them. Both these phones can capture spatial audio, but only the iPhone 16 gets the option of shooting cinematic mode videos in 4K 30 FPS. Cinematic mode lets you shoot videos when the subject is in sharp focus but rest of the background is blurred out. And the key to making these videos look good is to shoot them at a higher aperture value. This video has been shot at f6.3 to f7.1 and I think that looks really natural. Both the phones can shoot videos at up to 4K 60 FPS with all of their cameras. Since the iPhone 16 gets main and ultra-wide camera and a cinematic mode video shooting option, its cameras are more versatile for videos. It also shows better dynamic range of the two. You can see the sky in the iPhone 16e's video being blown out, but the 16 was able to preserve most of the blue color despite of the bright sun being just behind this building. iPhone 16 uses something called sensor shift image stabilization, where the entire image sensor moves along various axes to compensate for shaky hand movements. Apple has been using this type of stabilization for the last 2 or 3 years, whereas the iPhone 16e uses optical image stabilization, the more traditional form of image stabilization to keep the video footage stable. You can see both of them at work here. While both of them are doing a good job of stabilizing the video, but you can see slightly more movement in the iPhone 16e's videos as I'm walking around with both the phones, whereas the videos from the iPhone 16 seem slightly more stable. Now, as I said earlier, you can shoot 4K 60 FPS videos with both the phones and play them as they are, or you can slow these videos down to get amazing looking cinematic videos. While shooting videos in less than ideal conditions, like in artificial lighting as you are seeing here, we see a bit of grain in the videos from the iPhone 16e, whereas the iPhone 16's videos keep on looking as good as its videos in daytime. And when we move to even lower lighting conditions like during the night time, we start noticing an even bigger difference in their videos. Everything in 16e's videos look a lot softer and there is even more noise than before. You will also notice slightly more vibrations because of my steps making its way in the video, whereas the iPhone 16 is doing a much better job of managing all these things. So overall, if you take a lot of videos, I would say the iPhone 16 is well worth the extra amount. So after looking at all these image and video samples, we now know that the 16e delivers good looking punchy and vibrant images during daytime, but the slightly bigger image sensor on the iPhone 16 gives it a slight edge in terms of sharpness. You will however have to zoom in a lot to see those extra bit of details. Alright, let's wrap it up. iPhone 16e is the ultimate champion for its price. Great photos, solid videos, and a vibe that says, I don't need the extra lens to shine. But the iPhone 16's extra details, ultra-wide angle lens, macro shooting abilities, and the advanced video shooting options make it the versatile king and a clear winner in this comparison. That being said, which of these is for you depends on your budget and needs. If you can spend the extra amount, then by all means go for the iPhone 16. It is well worth the extra cost. But if you can't stretch your budget, or if you take most of your images during the daytime, then you would be just as happy with the iPhone 16e. If you want to see a lot more image and video samples from the iPhone 16e, you can check out the detailed camera review which is already up on the channel from the link in the description section. Well, you guys saw all these image and video samples too, so if you were trying to decide between these two phones based on their cameras, which one would you go with? Please let me know in the comments. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for a lot more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.